When my best friend's husband told me my house now belonged to him, I laughed in his face, thinking it was some kind of sick joke. Days later, I was standing before a judge fighting to prove I owned the home I'd lived in for 15 years. That's when I realized trust is like fine china, beautiful until someone shatters it to pieces. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me what state you're from in the comments. Trust me, this story has more twists than a mountain road, and you'll want to be buckled in for the ride. My name is Rebecca Morgan. At 45, I'd built a comfortable life as an interior designer with a cozy 3-bedroom craftsman that was my pride and joy. I'd purchased it when the neighborhood was up and coming, renovated every inch with my own hands, and turned it into a showpiece that frequently appeared in local home magazines. My house wasn't just walls and a roof, it was my canvas, my sanctuary, and the physical embodiment of everything I'd worked for. Edward and Lisa Thompson had been in my life for nearly a decade. Lisa and I met at a charity auction and clicked instantly. She was vivacious and warm, with a generous spirit that drew people to her. When she introduced me to her husband Edward, I thought they were the perfect couple. He was charming, successful in real estate, and seemed to adore Lisa. Over the years, they became like family. We celebrated holidays together, vacationed at the same beach house every summer, and were each other's emergency contacts. Edward even helped me refinance my mortgage 3 years ago, using his connections to get me a better rate. I trusted him completely. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I was in my home office reviewing fabric swatches for a client's sunroom when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a courier with an official-looking envelope. "Rebecca Morgan?" he asked, checking his digital pad. "That's me," I replied, signing for the delivery. "You've been served," he said flatly before turning away. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a formal notice informing me that Edward Thompson was initiating legal proceedings against me regarding the ownership of my property. According to the documents, he claimed to be the rightful owner of my home. Script part separator ===. I laughed out loud. This had to be some ridiculous mistake or a tasteless prank. I immediately called Edward. "What the hell is this?" I demanded when he answered. His voice was cool, detached. "I see you got the papers. I was going to call you today." "Call me?" "Edward, this says you're claiming ownership of my house. What kind of joke is this?" "It's not a joke, Rebecca." His tone shifted to something I'd never heard before, smug, almost predatory. "If you check the property records, you'll find I've been the legal owner for months now." "That's impossible. I never sold you my house. Remember that refinancing paperwork you signed last year? You should have read the fine print more carefully." The room seemed to spin around me. I grabbed the kitchen counter to steady myself. "You can't do this," I whispered. "I already have," Edward replied. "You have 30 days to vacate the premises." He hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Lisa, certain she would be horrified by her husband's actions. The call went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "Emergency. Call me ASAP about Edward." My hands shook as I dug through my home office, searching for the refinancing documents. When I found them and reviewed every page, my blood ran cold. The papers looked similar to what I remembered signing, but key sections were different. This wasn't a refinance. It was a transfer of deed disguised as one. I dropped onto my office chair, the reality crashing down on me. How could I have been so stupid? So trusting? My doorbell rang again. This time it was Lisa. Her eyes were red and puffy. "I just saw your text," she said, stepping inside. "Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I just found out this morning what Edward's been doing." "You didn't know?" She shook her head violently. "No, I swear. He's not the man I thought he was." Her voice broke. "I found out he's been lying about everything. Our finances, his business. Everything's falling apart. And now he's stealing my house? Lisa, how is this even possible?" "He's desperate," she whispered. "We're bankrupt, Rebecca. The house, the cars, the vacations, it was all smoke and mirrors. Now everyone's coming to collect, and he's doing terrible things. I had 28 days to save my home, and I wasn't going down without a fight. Script part separator equals. The next morning, I called every lawyer in the city. Most couldn't see me for weeks, but by some miracle, Gina Vasquez had a cancellation. Her office was downtown, in one of those sleek high-rises that scream success. Let me get this straight, Gina said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. Your friend's husband helped you refinance, but actually transferred ownership to himself? Yes, and now he's trying to evict me, I explained, my voice cracking. Gina removed her glasses. This is forgery and fraud, Rebecca. Pure and simple. She pointed to a signature on one page. Is this yours? I leaned closer. It looks like mine, but I never signed this page. That's what I thought. She tapped her pen against her desk. We need to file an emergency injunction to stop any eviction proceedings, then countersue for fraud and emotional distress. How much will this cost? I asked nervously. My retainer is $5,000. If we win, and I intend to, we'll go after him for legal fees too. $5,000 I didn't have. My business had been slow since the pandemic, and my savings were depleted. But what choice did I have? I'll get the money, I promised. That afternoon, I received another shock. A formal eviction notice giving me just 14 days to vacate, not the 30 Edward had mentioned. I called Lisa in a panic. He's accelerated the timeline. I practically shouted when she answered. I know, she said, her voice hushed. He's meeting with someone tonight. I overheard him talking about selling your house immediately. Selling it? But he doesn't even legally own it yet. Rebecca. Lisa hesitated. There's something else. I found some documents. Edward's in trouble with some dangerous people. I think he owes them money, a lot of money. My mind raced. What kind of dangerous people? I don't know exactly, she whispered. But he mentioned someone named Vega, and Edward seemed terrified. That name sent a chill through me. Vega. I'd overheard Edward mention that name at their Christmas party last year, when he'd had too much to drink. He'd quickly changed the subject when he noticed me nearby. Lisa, can you get copies of those documents? I'll try. He keeps everything locked in his office now, but he's careless when he's drinking. I hung up and immediately called Gina. We need to move faster, I told her. And there might be more to this than we thought. Script part separator equals. The next morning, I withdrew $5,000 from my retirement account, penalties be damned, and delivered it to Gina's office. She filed the emergency injunction by noon. This will buy us time, she explained, but we need evidence of fraud. Do you have the original refinance documents he showed you? Just digital copies in my email, I admitted. Forward everything to me. And we need to access property records immediately. While Gina worked her legal magic, I tried reaching Lisa again. No answer. I drove to their house, a sprawling Tudor in the expensive part of town, but no one answered the door. Their neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was watering her roses. Looking for the Thompsons? She called over. Lisa left with suitcases this morning. Seemed upset. My stomach dropped. Had Lisa abandoned me too? Back home, I found a man in a suit taking photos of my house. Can I help you? I demanded, blocking his path. Just assessing the property for Mr. Thompson, he replied smoothly. He's listing it for sale next week. The hell he is. I snapped. This house isn't his to sell. The man smiled condescendingly. The deed says otherwise, ma'am. That night, someone tried to enter my house with a key. I'd changed the locks that afternoon. Thankfully. Through the peephole, I saw Edward cursing, his face flushed with anger. I know you're in there, Rebecca, he shouted. You're only making this harder on yourself. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. The next day, my bank accounts were frozen. What's happening? I asked the bank manager in panic. There's a legal hold, she explained. Something about disputed property assets. Edward was cutting off my financial resources, making it impossible to fight back. When I returned home, my utilities had been shut off too. I was sitting in the dark when my phone rang, an unknown number. Rebecca? It's Lisa. I'm at a motel. I've got Edward's laptop and files. You need to see this. Script part separator The motel where Lisa was staying was a dingy roadside establishment about 20 miles outside the city. When I knocked on room 117, she opened the door just enough to peer out before pulling me inside quickly. "Did anyone follow you?" she asked, her voice tremulous. "No, I don't think so." I glanced around the small room. Fast food wrappers littered the table, and Lisa looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Lisa, what's going on? Edward's not just trying to steal your house. He's done this before." She opened a laptop and started clicking through files. 3 times in the last 5 years. Different names, different setups, but the same scheme. My mouth fell open as she showed me documents, photographs, and bank statements. Edward Thompson wasn't even his real name. He was Edward Voss, a con man with a long history of real estate fraud. "Why are you showing me this now?" I asked. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "Because I didn't know until last week. Our marriage, it was all part of his cover. He targeted me because I had connections in the community. And you?" Her voice broke. "He targeted you because of your house. It's the perfect location for what they want to build." "They?" "Vega isn't a person. It's a development company. VG Associates. They're planning to build luxury condos in your neighborhood, and your property is the last piece they need." My phone buzzed. A text from Gina. Court date moved up. "We're on for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Judge Sanders." "That's not possible," I muttered. "Cases don't get expedited that quickly." Lisa looked grim. "Edward has judges in his pocket. That's how he's gotten away with this for so long." "I need to get those files to my lawyer right now," I said, standing up. "There's more," Lisa said, pulling out a USB drive. "This has recordings. Edward discussing everything with his partners, including how they planned to force you out if the legal approach didn't work fast enough." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, force me out?" "They were going to stage a break-in. Make it look like you were attacked by a burglar." "I sitter her, horrified." "Lisa, we need to go to the police." "We will. But first, we need to make copies of everything. Edward has friends on the force, too." As we gathered the evidence, headlights swept across the motel window. Lisa peeked through the blinds and gasped. "It's him. Edward's here." Script part separator My heart pounded as Edward's footsteps approached the door. Lisa quickly shoved the laptop and files into my hands. "The bathroom window," she whispered. "It's big enough. Go now." "What about you?" I asked, clutching the evidence to my chest. "I'll stall him." "Go." I rushed to the bathroom, pushed open the window, and squeezed through just as I heard pounding on the motel room door. "Lisa, open this door right now." Edward's voice boomed. I dropped to the ground outside and crouched beneath the window, listening. "Where is she?" Edward demanded after Lisa opened the door. "Who?" "Don't play dumb. Rebecca's car is in the parking lot." "I don't know what you're talking about," Lisa replied, her voice remarkably steady. "My laptop, where is it? And those files?" I heard a crash, then Lisa's cry of pain. My instinct was to go back and help her, but I knew the evidence in my hands was our only hope. I crept along the back of the motel, reached my car, and sped away, calling 911 to report domestic violence at the motel. 20 minutes later, I was at Gina's house, spreading documents across her dining room table. "This changes everything," she said, examining the files. "We need to contact the FBI. This crosses state lines. It's federal fraud. But the hearing is tomorrow," I reminded her. "Then we'll be ready." Gina's eyes gleamed with determination. "They think they're ambushing us, but we're about to turn the tables." My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "I'm okay. Police came. In custody but posting bail. Be careful." "Can we win this?" asked Gina, my voice small. "With this evidence?" She held up the USB drive. "They won't know what hit them." Script part separator As dawn broke on the day of the hearing, I hadn't slept a wink. The weight of what was at stake, my home, my dignity, my entire future, pressed down on me like a physical force. I dressed carefully in a navy blue suit I reserved for important client meetings, determined to present myself as the professional I was, not the victim Edward had tried to make me. Gina met me on the courthouse steps, a thick portfolio under her arm. "Remember the plan," she whispered. "Let them present their case first. Let Edward hang himself with his own lies." The courtroom was more crowded than I expected. To my shock, I spotted 3 women I didn't recognize sitting together in the back row, all watching Edward with unmistakable contempt in their eyes.
"Who are they?"
I whispered to Gina. "Other victims," she replied quietly. "I made some calls last night." Judge Sanders entered, a stern-faced woman in her 60s. My heart sank when I noticed her brief nod of recognition toward Edward's attorney, a slick-looking man named Bennett. Edward's case went first. Bennett presented the deed transfer documents with theatrical confidence. "As you can see, Your Honor, Ms. Morgan willingly transferred her property to my client. Her signature appears on every page." Judge Sanders examined the documents. "Ms. Morgan, did you sign these papers?" I stood, my legs shaking beneath me. "Your Honor, I signed refinancing documents. What you're holding are forgeries." Bennett scoffed. "That's a serious accusation with no evidence to support it." "Actually," Gina interjected, rising smoothly, "we have substantial evidence." She approached the bench with our portfolio. "Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to inform the court that the FBI has opened an investigation into Mr. Thompson, or should I say Mr. Voss, for a pattern of real estate fraud across 3 states. The color drained from Edward's face. Script part separator equals. The judge's eyebrows shot up. "Ms. Vasquez, these are serious allegations." "Indeed, Your Honor," Gina continued unfazed. "And we have evidence to support them." She handed over the USB drive. "This contains audio recordings of Mr. Thompson discussing his fraudulent scheme with his partners." Edward leapt to his feet. "Objection. Those recordings were obtained illegally." Judge Sanders fixed her gaze on him. "Sit down, Mr. Thompson. You'll have your turn." Bennett whispered urgently to Edward, who looked increasingly agitated. "Furthermore," Gina continued, "we have affidavits from 3 previous victims of Mr. Thompson's schemes." She nodded toward the women in the back, "all of whom are present in court today and willing to testify." Judge Sanders called for a brief recess to review the new evidence. In the hallway, Edward cornered me, his face contorted with rage. "You stupid bitch," he hissed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with," I replied, standing my ground. "A con man who picked the wrong woman to scam." Before he could respond, the 3 women from the courtroom approached, forming a protective circle around me. "Hello, Edward," said the oldest, an elegant woman in her 60s. "Remember me? Santa Fe, 2018? You called yourself Edward Tanner then." Edward backed away, but another woman stepped forward. "And I was Minneapolis, 2020. Edward Palmer, wasn't it?" His eyes darted frantically, looking for escape. "Your pattern is getting predictable," the 3rd woman said coldly. "Target a successful single woman, insert yourself into her life through a mutual connection, then forge documents to steal her property." The bailiff called us back to the courtroom. Edward looked trapped, his confident facade crumbling as we filed back in. Script part separator equals. Judge Sanders returned to the bench, her expression severe. "After reviewing this evidence, I find sufficient cause for immediate concern. Mr. Thompson, these recordings appear to show you explicitly planning to defraud Ms. Morgan." Edward's attorney jumped up. "Your Honor, we can test the authenticity of these recordings." "Really?" Gina countered, pressing a button on her laptop. Edward's voice filled the courtroom. "Once I get the deed, we'll flip it to Vega for triple what it's worth. Morgan trusts me completely. She never even reads what she signs." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Edward's face flushed crimson. "I'd like to call Lisa Thompson to the stand," Gina announced. Lisa entered from a side door, looking pale but resolute. After being sworn in, she faced the courtroom. "Mrs. Thompson, what can you tell us about your husband's business dealings?" Lisa took a deep breath. "Edward has been running real estate scams for years. I discovered the truth 3 weeks ago when I found hidden accounts and documents about previous victims." "Objection," Bennett shouted. "Spousal privilege." Mrs. Thompson approached us voluntarily, Gina countered. She's a witness, not a defendant. Overruled, Judge Sanders declared. Continue, Mrs. Thompson. Edward specifically targeted Rebecca because her house sits on the corner property needed for the Vega development project. He bragged about how easy it was to switch the refinancing papers. Edward leapt to his feet. She's lying. Lisa, what are you doing? Sit down, Mr. Thompson. Judge Sanders commanded. One more outburst, and I'll have you removed. Lisa continued. I have copies of his real identification, previous aliases, and bank transfers from other properties he's stolen. With each revelation, I watched Edward's composure disintegrate. The powerful man who had threatened me was shrinking before my eyes, exposed and cornered. Script part separator ===. Judge Sanders leaned forward, her gaze drilling into Edward. Mr. Thompson, in light of this testimony and evidence, I'm issuing an immediate stay on any property transfer. The deed will remain in Ms. Morgan's name pending criminal investigation. Edward slammed his fist on the table. This is outrageous. You can't. I can and I am. The judge cut him off. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Bailiff, please detain Mr. Thompson. 2 court officers approached Edward, who backed away, wild-eyed. You don't understand, he sputtered, looking desperately around the room. I had no choice. They would have killed me if I didn't deliver the property. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Sanders narrowed her eyes. What exactly are you saying, Mr. Thompson? Vega, he whispered, suddenly deflating. They're not just developers. The money behind them, it's not clean. When I couldn't deliver the last property I promised, they threatened my life. Bennett tried to interrupt, but Edward pushed him away. I needed Rebecca's house to save myself. Edward continued, desperation in his voice. You don't cross these people. I felt a chill run through me. Was this another manipulation, or was Edward telling the truth? Gina stepped forward. Your Honor, regardless of Mr. Thompson's motivations, my client has been the victim of fraud. We request immediate restoration of all her accounts and utilities, plus damages. Granted, Judge Sanders declared. Ms. Morgan, your property remains legally yours. Mr. Thompson will remain in custody pending formal charges. As they led Edward away, he locked eyes with me. This isn't over, he mouthed. They'll come for the house now. Script part separator ===. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Gina expertly fielded questions while I stood in shocked silence, the reality of my victory not yet fully sinking in. Ms. Morgan just wants her life back, Gina told them. This case exposes a sophisticated fraud scheme that has victimized multiple women across several states. Lisa approached me as the crowd dispersed, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I should have realized sooner what he was doing. You helped me when it counted, I replied, squeezing her hand. But what Edward said about Vega, is that true? Are they dangerous? Lisa nodded grimly. From what I found in his files, they're not people you want to cross. Edward was desperate because he promised them your property months ago. Gina joined us, overhearing the conversation. I've contacted the FBI about the Vega connection. They're already looking into them for money laundering through real estate. That night, I returned to my house, with a security company installing a new alarm system. As the technician worked, I wandered from room to room, touching familiar walls and furniture that had almost been stolen from me. My phone rang, an unknown number. Rebecca Morgan? A man's voice asked. Yes, who's this? My name is Carlos Vega. I understand you've had some difficulties with Edward Thompson. My blood froze. What do you want? To make you an offer on your property. Double its market value, cash. No complications. My house isn't for sale, I said firmly. Ms. Morgan, his voice hardened. Everyone has a price. Edward was simply inefficient in finding yours. Script part separator ===. After I hung up on Vega, I immediately called Gina. They're already reaching out, I told her, my voice shaking. The real Vega just offered to buy my house. Don't engage with them again, she ordered. I'm calling my FBI contact right now. The next morning, a sleek black SUV was parked across from my house. When I left for a meeting with Gina, it followed me at a discreet distance. They're watching the house, I told Gina at her office. What do we do? We've got options, she said, spreading documents across her desk. The FBI wants to use your situation. If you're willing, they'd like to set up a sting operation. Using me as bait? I asked incredulously. With full protection, she assured me. They've been after Vega's organization for years. That afternoon, 2 FBI agents, Rodriguez and Chun, briefed me in a secure conference room. We believe Carlos Vega is a frontman for a money laundering operation, Agent Rodriguez explained. They buy strategic properties, develop them into luxury condos, then sell units to shell companies to clean millions in dirty money. And my house is the last piece they need? I asked. Agent Chin nodded. Your corner lot completes the block they need for their next development. They've already secured permits using forged documents claiming they had ownership agreements. Do I have a choice? I asked quietly. Of course, Agent Rodriguez said. We can place you in protective custody, relocate you temporarily. But they'll just target someone else, I realized aloud. Some other homeowner, who might not be as lucky as I was. I thought about the 3 women in the courtroom, Edward's previous victims. How many others had suffered because of men like him. I'll do it, I decided. Tell me what you need me to do. The plan was simple, but dangerous. I would agree to meet with Vega to discuss selling my property. The meeting would be recorded, with FBI agents posing as my financial advisors. Script part separator script part separator . The meeting was set for Friday at an upscale restaurant downtown. I chose a table near the window, wearing a wire so thin it was practically invisible beneath my silk blouse. Agents Rodriguez and Chin sat 2 tables away, posing as a couple on a date. Carlos Vega arrived exactly on time. He was nothing like I expected. Not a menacing thug, but a polished businessman in his 50s with silver-streaked hair and an expensive suit. Ms. Morgan, he said smoothly, taking my hand. Thank you for reconsidering my offer. I haven't reconsidered anything, I replied coolly. I'm curious why your organization is so desperate for my property. Vega smiled, signaling for wine. Not desperate. Strategic. Your location completes a vision. We create beautiful homes for discerning buyers. Using dirty money, I thought but didn't say. Instead, I asked, and if I refuse to sell? His smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. Everyone eventually sells, Ms. Morgan. Edward's approach was inelegant. I prefer mutual benefit. The waiter poured wine I didn't touch. $3 million, Vega continued. Triple the market value. You could buy any house you want. My house isn't just real estate, I replied. It's my home. Sentiment is expensive, he remarked. $5 million then. My final offer. I leaned forward. And if I still say no? Then things become complicated. Vega's voice remained pleasant, but the threat was unmistakable. Tax audits. Building code violations. Unfortunate accidents. I see, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. So you're threatening me now? Vega chuckled. I'm explaining reality. Edward was right about one thing. Your property is vital to our interests. I tilted my head. Tell me more about these interests. As Vega began elaborating on his development plans, he unwittingly incriminated himself further with each sentence. The FBI agents at the next table were getting everything. Script part separator . When Vega finally left, promising to have contracts drawn up by Monday, I nearly collapsed from the tension. Agents Rodriguez and Chen immediately moved to my table. You did beautifully, Agent Chen said. We got everything we needed, and more. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. The FBI moved me to a safe house while they prepared to arrest Vega and his associates. They raided his offices, seizing computers and documents that revealed the full scope of his operation, a multi-state real estate scheme that had laundered over $50 million in drug money. On Monday morning, instead of meeting Vega with contracts, I sat in the back of a federal courtroom watching him being arraigned on multiple felony charges. Edward was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, looking broken and diminished. When he spotted me, his eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with hatred. I stared back, no longer afraid. 3 months later, I stood on my front porch watching workers remove the for sale sign from my neighbor's yard. The elderly couple had been approached by Vega's organization too, but with the ringleaders now facing decades in prison, the development project had collapsed. Lisa called that afternoon. She was living in Colorado now, rebuilding her life. "Have you heard?" she asked. Edward took a plea deal. He's testifying against Vega in exchange for a reduced sentence.
"How do you feel about that?" I asked.
Relieved, she admitted.
"And sad."
I wasted 7 years with a man who never existed. After we hung up, I walked through my house, touching the walls that had weathered this storm with me. In the living room, I removed the plain beige curtains Edward had always complimented and hung vibrant red ones I'd always wanted. Sometimes the things we think make us vulnerable, like my attachment to this house, turn out to be our greatest strength. I refused to be bullied, manipulated, or threatened out of what was rightfully mine, and that refusal brought down an entire criminal enterprise. As the sun set, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, watching my neighborhood settle into evening. My phone buzzed with a text from Gina. "Good news. Judge approved your damages claim. $1. $2 million coming your way. Dinner to celebrate?" I smiled and replied, "Yes, but at my place. I'm never leaving this house." The 3 women from the courthouse, Edward's previous victims, have become friends. We meet monthly for dinner, sharing our stories and healing together. Last week, they helped me repaint my dining room a bold emerald green that Edward would have hated. Sometimes the most valuable things we own aren't measured in dollars, but in the courage it takes to protect them. My house is more than just my home now. It's a testament to my refusal to be a victim. And if you're wondering about those mysterious, dangerous people Edward claimed were threatening him, pure fiction, his final desperate lie. The only truly dangerous person in this story was Edward himself, a wolf hiding in plain sight, preying on trust and kindness. But even wolves eventually meet their match. And this time the wolf met me.